Welcome to the Small Business Safari, where I help guide you to avoid those traps, pitfalls, and dangers that lurk when navigating the wild world of small business ownership. I'll share those gold nuggets of information and invite guests to help accelerate your ascent to that mountaintop of success. It's a jungle out there, and I want to help you traverse through the levels of owning your own business that can get you bogged down and distract you from hitting your own personal and professional goals. So strap in, adventure team, and let's take a ride through the safari and get you to the mountaintop. I'm always ready, Alan. That's what we do after you listen to that music. You got to get pumped up. You know, you just got to keep going, keep making it happen. But before we got ready on this podcast, I had to take care of a little bit of the old work shit, people.
How many people did you fire?
No, I didn't fire anybody yet.
How many people did you threaten to fire?
The quick talk was we pull out this lady, of course, when you go into a remodeling job or a small repair, we don't have a lot of money. We have to do this. They have one bathroom in the place we're working in. My guys pull out the tub in the bathroom just to do some tile work, and the tub literally disintegrates.
Oh.
All the lips just fell apart. Somebody had told them totally done a hack job on this thing. And so the customers are in one of those, well, now what situations? Well, now what? Unfortunately, I hate to do this. There aren't really any options. You can do nothing, or you can pay us to rip out the tub, all the tile around your tub, and start over and do this thing the right way.
It's a great way to scale your business. You just throw the house and then you have to do more.
That's what I kept telling the guys. I'm like, hey, keep telling them it's rust. Just show them. No, so you find it, share it, show it. You know, again, with the trusted toolbox, Alan, you have to be trusted. But what we had to know is one of my guys is scrambling, going to get them a tub because they literally have one bathroom in their entire house. They can only be down for so long. And we're trying to hurry up and get it going. But the guys who were doing this are like, well, did the sales guy get the extra money for us to do this work? I'm like, just go and do it. And I just threatened the sales guy that you either get this done or I will take it and I will get the money. So it's up to you.
I mean, the toilet still works, really? I mean,
actually, the people,
they just hold stuff outside.
The people aren't panicking. They're actually being very cool. But we're trying to be, good corporate stewards doing another thing that we're doing. Oh, it's so lonely being at the top, Alan, and especially when you got to make payments and stuff like that. Sometimes I kind of wonder, was it worth it to scale to 32 employees to get up to, I guess what the big words are, 7 figures. Okay, that's because you made it.
Do you sometimes wish you were just doing it by yourself?
Sometimes you kind of wish, was I back to just being a solopreneur? Give me the solo circuit. Give me the mic by myself. I don't want to share the time with anybody else. Binky. But I do with Alan. That's right, my buddy. I've been doing this podcast with Alan for 4.5 years. Said I wouldn't do it with anybody else because I've got to do it with you, buddy. And we've been doing it because I don't like being alone a lot. And it's hard being a solopreneur. And that's why I said that was never my goal, never my ambition to do it. But now after 32 headaches, 32 employees, I'm thinking maybe it's not so bad. But that's why we're going to talk to you today, because we got a great guest on who's going to help you with that. And I didn't even have to ask him how to pronounce his last name, because this is so cool. I mean, having this cool name, Joe Rando, come on. And back in the day, Rando rhymes with Rambo. I mean, come on. You had to play with that one, right, Joe? Come on. Joe,
I heard Rambo all through the 80s. And then the millennials decided to turn my name into the equivalent of Schmo. And
he's a rando.
I know. Some rando showed up at the party. And I walk into, I make restaurant reservations, and they really think it's somebody famous coming, and they used a fake name.
Oh.
And I walk in, and they're extremely disappointed.
Oh, you should try.
I'm going to start doing that
in Vegas.
Yeah, I'm going to do that in Vegas. But you still got the best spot, right? They didn't I can't.
Get a nice table, yeah. But then, next time they're smarter. So you got to change restaurants.
Well,
so Rando can't be
like a football coach in Jacksonville or something they can't trace real easy.
But that name, that can't be the family name. That had to get shortened somehow, some way.
No, it's, literally, I can trace it back to the 1600s.
Wow.
Yeah. I think it in some dialect of Italian, I think it translates to boundary. But
really?
Yeah. But, I don't know too much more than that, except it's from a little tiny island off the coast of Sicily called Filicudi.
You guys
That's
are
where the
cousins.
family is from.
We are cousins because, as soon as he said a little island, I'm like, well, there's only a couple of them. And he says the one, then I'm like, oh, that's the one I remembered. My family's all from Sicily up in the mountains.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So last name Lalomia, which means little
Lalomia.
lemon tree.
Okay. Well,
I don't tell people any of that,
That's
Pinky.
an image I just won't ever
Right.
associate with you.
I
That's
I used to tell my grandmother, I
little
was like,
bitter lemon tree.
Grandma, no, that's exactly right. I'm bitter like a lemon. I said, are you sure it isn't like big badass? I said, are you sure it's She goes, no, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So, boy, that's really cool. What a great history and lineage. Little lemon tree and boundary.
Yep.
Rando.
It's great.
So, Joe, why don't you give everybody a little snippet of what you do to help solopreneurs, and then we'll jump into stuff.
Sure. Well, basically, I mean, the short version of the story is I have spent, decades starting businesses. Typically wanted something, at least from the tech perspective, wanted to buy something, couldn't find it, built it. Sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. Wanted to buy an app, it didn't exist. I said, I'm going to make it. I made the app, then was like, where do we sell it? And I work with this woman, Carly Reese. She's also a co-host of our podcast. And she said, you should sell this to solopreneurs. Makes total sense for solopreneurs. And I'm like, great, what's a solopreneur? This is going way back now. And said, oh, okay, I've been a solopreneur, a one-person business, no employees. I've done that. And where do we find them? And then we looked where we find them, and there was no good place to find them, to market to them. And I said, and then I found out there's like 30 million of them in the United States. And I said, you know what? Let's build the place. Then we'll build the app. And, having been a solopreneur, my first business was a solopreneur business on purpose. I kind of understood it and started studying it even more and more, getting a modern perspective. Didn't take too long before we were really, kind of became experts on the subjects, along with Carly, because she's a marketing person and I'm not. And we wrote Solopreneur Business for Dummies, which got published by Wiley back in September. And been building out our kind of online community, online tools. The app is closely approaching release and all kinds of other fun stuff. So,
do you have to get is your Solopreneur for Dummies actually the yellow and black book? I mean, is it the official? I mean, is there somebody who's in control of the whole for Dummies? Yeah,
Wiley.
Okay,
Wiley.
So Wiley has to go, okay, we like that, and we're going to add it to our.
Well, they drive the process. I mean, they're really, solid editing team over there. They're really great.
That's a much thicker book than yours was, Chris. I'm just going to point that out.
He's got a lot more depth than I do, Alan. So let's back up. Let's back up a little bit, Joe, and let's talk about, coming out of school. Did you start in the entrepreneurial world? Where did you start? Where was your goal?
So basically, what I did is I went to school for physics. After I gave up trying to be a rock star, I went to school for physics, got a bachelor's in physics, ended up working in fiber optics, doing, kind of datacom over optical fiber for about 3 years. Decided I always had an entrepreneurial bug. I wanted to start my own business. So my father, who was a good businessman that didn't finish college, said, you know what? You're not going to screw up because of technology. You're going to screw up because you don't know how to run a business. He goes, get an MBA. So I started consulting. I went full-time for an MBA and took about 18, 19 months. And by the time I got out, we had a massive real estate crash. And it was, I don't remember, 1989, 1990. It was terrible. And in the meantime,
in the Northeast especially.
Yeah, it was really bad. And so in the meantime, I had gotten exposed to this concept of retail shopping center development, and all this stuff was happening with Home Depot, and Kmart was expanding in those days, and Target was coming. And so I had an opportunity to get involved in that business. And so I said, I'm going to start my own solo business. I didn't call it solopreneur in those days, but I'm going to do this. And it's a terrible time. And everybody told me I was nuts, but I said, when things are bad, you can make deals. And ended up tying up some land for really cheap and getting people to be really cooperative, and developed over the time about 1 million square feet of retail. And in the process, built some technology to figure out where to put it. And so that was kind of where I started as a solopreneur, because I just wanted the business to be something I could work at, but not have to develop, because I had a a train of, of employees that I had to keep working, right? Because there's times to develop and there's times not to develop. And so that worked really well. I had, it was a good life. My kids were little. I had some time to be with them. I wasn't working, 100 hours a week. And that worked out really well. And then, of course, I found a way to screw it up. But at least in terms of the,
Don't we all?
Let's go back to the fun stuff, though. So the real estate, you saw the opportunity. I love this that you did that because, recently for a lot of people who remember 2008, it would have been good if you would have known it was time to wait, and then jump. Hard to time that market. How did you get an idea or a sense of that?
well, what happened, the detail is that my father and his partner owned a Holiday Inn. And it was the oldest one in New England, and they were going to revoke the franchise. And they didn't want to not run it as a Holiday Inn. So the plan was they were going to tear it down and build a new hotel, but they had a bunch of property they had acquired around it and had a study done. And they said, build a power center. And they're like, what's a power center? And a power center is those big box centers that we have everywhere now. But in those days, they didn't exist. And in the meantime, my consulting work was drying up because I was doing fiber optics consulting, but it was drying up. I was charging groceries on my credit card. And I said, hey, can I help you out with this? I'm a good project manager. I know, stuff about, keeping track of projects and being an engineer and all this stuff. And they said, sure. So I got some work from them, my dad and his partner helping with this and doing a lot of finance stuff because I was, had gotten good with spreadsheets being an MBA student. And I looked at the business and I said, you know what? I love this business. This is great. All the risk is up front. Then you just collect the rent and pay the mortgage and keep the difference. So I kind of shifted gears and ended up changing my MBA concentration to real estate. And when I finished up and working with them, I went out and started tying up property on my own. But the crash had hit. So it was weird because, I was going to probably try to do some little deal, maybe do like a CVS or something. But instead, I was able to tie up 68 acres of land for pennies. The guy that owned it was this Italian guy. And I was his son he never had. Though his daughter was amazing, a really great businesswoman. But, he worked with me, helped me out. He wanted a lot of money, gave me the chance to make it worth that much money by getting permits and getting tenants. And we ended up developing that. So that was kind of off to the races. So we just kind of rode the economy back up. It took I saw the property in 1990 and we broke ground on the first store in 98.
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
it took
a long
while.
cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. But getting permits, it was a site that my software said was great. Wasn't as obvious to the kind of, real estate people that it was a great location, but eventually they came around but it was a good way to get off the ground. And so, I did some other stuff in the meantime, but that was the big one. That was almost 500,000 square feet.
Wow. That's a great deal. All right. So then you hinted that, well, I kind of screwed it up. So one of the things we like to do is help everybody not make the same damn mistakes we made.
So here's what I did. I'm glad I did it because it kind of helped me get where I am now today in a couple of ways. But what I did was, because the way the development was going, it was really on again, off again. So there's times when I was very busy, and then there were times when there was nothing to do. And I don't do well with nothing to do. It's one of the reasons that I probably will never retire because I don't know what I'll do. I'll have to do something. So I'm kind of bored half the time, and half the time I'm busy. And so I started a software company because I had built this software to figure out where to put stores, where stores could do well and where they would do poorly. And so I had been contacted by a company called DeBartolo. They were one of the big mall developers back in those days. They were bought by Simon Malls, but DeBartolo owned or still owns the 49ers.
That's how I knew him.
Yeah.
Is that how
Yeah.
you knew him? That's how I knew him.
Well, real estate.
I didn't realize that's how he made his money. I just knew him from DeBartolo.
Yeah.
When he
Yeah, enclosed malls. They were like second biggest in the country, I think. And they had heard about this software I had written from somebody and wanted to license it. And I'm like, whoa, the world just beat a path to my door. So I started another company, and I started a company doing this, selling this software, and kind of went and hired a sales guy, hired some programmers because, I was going to be doing other stuff, and got some really great people working with me. And we went out and kind of put it all together and lo and behold, it was really a SaaS business, software as a service business. We didn't have that name in those days, but the idea was it was a subscription. You pay it every year. And the sales guy goes out and he lands a $130,000 a year deal. I mean, in 1995, that was real money. And we're like, we're off to the races. This is the best thing ever. Well, something else happened in 1995 called the internet. And
Right.
so what
Al
happened
Gore
was,
developed that, Ellen.
so what happened is now all of a sudden everybody's wondering if there's going to be stores in 10 years, right? So nobody wants to invest in kind of taking this kind of enterprise software into their business and training up their people on how to use it and da da da. So I had two options. I could hang, I had one customer, I could hang it up, or I could start doing services, running the software for them, producing the analyses for them. And I decided that I would do the services. And it was a really tough go. I mean, it was a very tough life, doing surveys at night and just cranking out reports, making all your money, late in the day on Friday because everything else was going toward expenses. And it was a lousy business. And, I did it because I had, this freight train that was running down the tracks, and I was either going to have to try to stop it or find a way to keep it going. And I chose keep it going. And eventually I was, everybody was burning out. I was having trouble making money with it. And so I closed it down in 1999. And, but some good things happened from that. I don't know if you want me to go into that, but I did. I ended up shutting it down. And it was it was a very painful process. Let's put it that way. But
Right.
like I said, some seeds were planted that worked out very well in the long run.
So you learned your lessons. I mean, obviously go through that. Let's go kind of jump forward to LifeStarr and what you're doing with that to help people help them get better as a solopreneur.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a couple of, I think, premises that I want to lay out first, which is that, I know there's talk about the first $1 billion solopreneur and all that, and I'm sure it'll happen, and that's great. That's, but, 99.999% of us.
No idea.
Oh,
Don't
yeah.
know that
There's lots of talk about, there's going to be a $1 billion one-person company.
Okay.
Somebody's going to do that.
Between you and me, let me put this on mute for a minute. Between you and me, which one is that? So I can do that. What was that?
I have no idea. They're just predicting somebody's going to do it.
Shit. All right.
Yeah.
Fine. All right. We'll continue. All right.
so-
back on, everybody. Keep listening.
So but the fact is that probably will happen, but that's not 99.999% of everybody. That's going to be the unicorn. And I don't have there's plenty of people that want to chase the unicorns, and I get it, and it's fun and exciting. But, there's just a lot of people out there that, just want to have a business that fundamentally serves their life, right? So kind of what I did when I started the real estate development business, I wanted to be around, have some time with my kids, have some time with my wife, be able to take a nice vacation, make enough money to be comfortable without, I wasn't trying to become, Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or whatever. So the idea here is if you're starting a one-person business, for the most part, if you're not doing it only to, bootstrap your way into an employee-based business when you grow enough, if you're really planning on staying one person, you're not doing it to scale, at all costs. You're not trying to become massively big. Scaling can't be your first consideration. Or why are you giving up employees? Those are your best scaling tools are employees. I know they're difficult, you said, before we started, but they nothing scales like having employees. So if you're not going to have employees,
Hey, Joe, quick update. You said they're difficult when we started the podcast. We're still on the podcast. They're still difficult. Just a quick update. No, I'm kidding.
They've probably gotten more difficult in just the time we've been together.
I'm afraid, but I put it on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. Employees are hard. There's a lot of challenges with employees, and I do have employee-based businesses. I've had them in the past. I still have one small one now, but the fact is that these people are choosing not to have employees, which means they're doing this for some other reason than scaling at all costs. If they're sane. So what's the reason? Well, I think it depends on who you are and what you want. So I think most solopreneurs say, well, I'm going to escape this corporate zoo. The situation in corporate is not tenable to me, and I want to go out and I want to solve that by starting my own one-person business. But what do? They start off by looking, what are my skills, and how do I build a business around my skills? And yet the goal was to build a life, a business that serves the life, but they never define the life they want. And they never design the business to meet the needs of that particular life. So you wind up basically building yourself a job. And I did that with this, with my software company. I built a job that made me miss corporate. I mean, corporate was better than that job was that I built with that company. So you really need to think in terms of, we call it the ownership trap, right? You're in a situation where you've now built this business, you own it, it's your baby, and heck, it's just not fun. And so what we've done is we've stepped back and we've developed a process for building a one-person business where you start off with the life design and then ways to design the business to meet those goals that you have. And some people, they want to be able to work from anywhere. And we have people that every time we talk to them, they come on an event, they're in different part of the world, right? That's what they wanted. They built a business to do that. They're happy. They did it. Some people want to be able to just get to their kids' games, or they want to be able to golf when the weather's nice. Some people, really do want to make a lot of money, but they don't want to deal with employees, and they want to do work with the people they want to work with. You can do that. You might be working 70 hours a week, but that's okay with them. So we've built a process for kind of helping people define what they want, then build the business around the life. And then there's other aspects to this we can talk about later, but then there's the other mistakes that people make as they're running a business and not doing the things that need to be done to keep the machine doing what it's supposed to be doing.
So as you're helping solopreneurs, what are some of the ones, what's an example of one? Give us some good examples of people who are making it, not to the $1 billion level, not yet. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah. I mean, look, we mainly we focus on kind of service-based solopreneurs, people that have a skill and are bringing that skill to people that need what they do. And they could be anything from a life coach. There's a guy that's very involved, a guy named Jeff Stevens, who's an Excel expert. And businesses, they either need Excel spreadsheets, they have these Excel spreadsheets from hell that they need to be working for their business. And this guy is just a wizard and comes in, and he does more than that. He does a lot of data stuff, but he'll just take these problems that people have with these headache systems, and usually for small and medium businesses, and he makes it into a system that works smoothly for him. And he does great. And the people that he does it for are really happy. We have one guy, like I said, mostly it's service-based. We have one guy that creates, software apps for people using this low-code, no-code technology that's come out now. And good Lord, there's just hundreds. One woman grows microgreens and sells them to local restaurants. She knows how to make these microgreens. Yes, the restaurants love them, and she just goes and sells them to the high-end restaurants and makes a living doing that. Huh. I mean, it's all over the board.
But it's interesting to me. So you've talked about the fact that somebody can come to you who has an entrepreneurial spirit. They don't know what they want to do. I mean, that's actually almost an ideal client for you because you can help them figure out what to do.
Yeah, I mean, we help people figure out what to do, but usually they have an idea. I have a skill at this or a passion for that. And, one of the things that we try to get people to understand is that, you've probably heard of Ikigai, right?
No.
No. Okay. Well, Ikigai is this thing that, if you Google it, it's all over the internet, and it's this Japanese concept that really isn't a Japanese concept. It's a Venn diagram. And the Venn diagram talks about you find the things that you're good at, that you're passionate about, that people need and people are willing to pay for. And that intersection is what you should do.
I didn't know what it was called.
Yeah.
Ikigai.
And so it's just Ikigai. Yeah. It's the Japanese word Ikigai just kind of means reason for being. And
I'm trying to spell that in my head. I was actually
Ikigai.
So we were
IKI.
We are ICKY. GUI. Like the icky guy.
Icky guy, yeah.
Yeah, you're like the old man at the bar, sitting over there at the college place in the corner with his friends. I'm just thinking hypothetically, Alan, and he's the icky guy. Hey, what's that dirty old man doing over the corner? Icky guy. That's the guy I was thinking of.
But the problem with that, the problem with Ikigai is that, if I did Ikigai and I went through and looked at that my nature and what I'm about, right, I would be I mean, I am in flow. I am in the zone when I'm programming a computer. I can, I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and then it would be midnight. And, and so that's something that I obviously am passionate about. People will pay me for that. The world needs computer programs. And what did I leave out here? I'm good. I was pretty good at it. I wasn't the best in the world, but I was good at it. So there's my ikigai. All four of those are met, right? But I didn't have a life, right? I
Right.
mean, I'd be divorced. My kids wouldn't talk to me. If I gave it up in 1993 for the same reason a lot of people give up cocaine. So ikigai doesn't really work. I was an addict to this thing, and that's not healthy. So you have to kind of say, what do I want my life to look like? And maybe I can't follow my biggest passion. Maybe I have to follow something else that I like or I'm good at, and I don't mind doing. I mean, it's really important to
That's a big different mindset because we've all been raised with, follow your passion and then success will come. But you're saying your passion may lead you into a solopreneur situation that could be just, insufferable.
Yeah, I mean, and even a job, it could be a job, or a lot of people. I always remember going back. This is going back to the '80s when Dell was relatively new, and Dell was massively growing in those days. And there was some guy, and he was some exec at high up in Dell, and he came in and he was rallying the troops to work because they whatever, and he was bragging about the fact that his son was born 6 weeks ago and he hadn't seen him yet. you know,
Oh,
and I'm just like, this is, and I mean, that was the ethos. That was bragging in the '80s. And it's so opposite that now. And it's just, all I'm saying is that, if you care, if you want to become, Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, great, go do it. But for most people, they kind of want to have a life. They want to have something about their life that they like living. And it has to start there. It has to start by defining what that life should look like before you start designing the business that you want to start.
yeah, I
Or
think that's a hard one though, Joe, because when I think about back to why did I start my business, I had left the corporate world, and I had it, but I had that job. I was making buku bucks, corner office, parking spot, the whole thing,
Mhm.
making a lot. And I said, no, that's it. And my wife's like, whoa, 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 hang on, man. We've got kids in private school. We're in a gated country club community. You can't just give this up. And I'm like, no, no, I got to do this. And so I took the time, and you had mentioned the corporate zoo, which is why Alan and I did the old homage here, because I have my book called From the Zoo to the Wild, which is the book I wrote. And I said, no, I'm going to go out there and make this happen. Of course, I started in 2008 when the recession started, and I started a handyman business, which sounds great on paper, but let me tell you how bad it sucked for 3 years. And so as you do that, you're right. You're trying to design your life and do that. I mean, I made no bones about it. My why when I started was to make a lot of money, to supplant my income. My why was not to spend more time with my kids. I'm going to say this now. Now, the outcome was, and the truth of the matter was, I did. I became, instead of Mr. Third Inning, I became the coach of their teams. I coached them in basketball. I coached them in baseball, softball. I watched them in tennis, couldn't coach them, which is why I think they excelled at that sport. So I stayed away from them. But, so when you talk about that, you can design your why, and that's what I'm getting at. Is it's hard to say it, especially when you're thinking about paying bills. And that's why when I talk to young entrepreneurs, especially, or wannabe entrepreneurs, is like, go ahead and start it early, because you got nothing to lose, man. I mean, seriously, you'll get back on your feet. You don't have what I had at the time. I had 2 mortgages, I had 2 houses, I had kids in private school. We had a lot of stuff going on. So the bet was, boy, Chris better do really well. Now, my wife had a great job as well, but we were basically not only having our income, we were basically three-quartering our income. Is how bad it was.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but your why at that point was you had to get away from corporate and you needed to make enough money to offset that. And then it sounds like you reevaluated your goals, and said, okay, I want to be able to coach my kids. And you adjusted the business to allow you to do that. It's what I think you're saying to me, right?
Well, that wasn't the way I got into it, but I would tell you that's one of the things. Of course, the Simon Sinek and the why. That's why I tell people my why has evolved so much over the
Sure.
years. Especially, we're not just talking about solopreneurs, but it's anything. Now it's I'd love to empower my team, my 32 employees, beautiful, beautiful employees, to empower them to make great decisions and to do things and to help us all propel to have the lifestyle that they want. And I've got not only 32 employees, I got 32 families that I think about because
Right.
many of them do have families, and we're trying to continue to grow in a very competitive marketplace that we're all in. And so I think the why changes a lot for us. But thinking about that lifestyle, it's a hard conversation. And it's definitely one where you sit back. It doesn't happen on Monday morning when you're fighting fires. It happens at a certain time when you got some time to get in the flow, right?
I'm sorry.
So you got to be in the flow. You got to, I mean,
Yeah, I
think
mean,
about this.
That
You
was
it's a
like
can't,
a
process.
6 minute question.
Yeah.
but I'm coming to the end, Alan. Flow. I need flow, Alan. And then
I
I'll
mean,
talk about
I
you in the
think that
bathroom.
the thing that I think comes down to is like if you look at my example, right? And I had a business that I really liked. It was just, I learned the power of recurring revenue from the real estate, from the shopping center business, right? Every month you got that rent check. And I said, this is great, right? So I do all this hard work, and then it's just money coming in, and I just love that model. And then it was like, well, let's build this software and bang our heads against the walls for, a year and a half and build a software, and then we'll just have people license it and pay us every year. And I said, great model, and it would have worked out, except for the darn internet. But when I made that decision to go to a service business, had I looked and said, well, what did I do this for? I did this because I wanted to be able to be at home with my wife and kids for dinner and that kind of thing. If I had that at front of top of mind, I probably would have said, let's just give it up. Let's just not move on. But instead, I basically put myself through 3 years of pretty hellish life trying to keep that thing going. And like I said, there was a little bit of the rest of the story. So we shut it down. 3 years, 4 years later, it was clear that stores weren't going away. We rebooted it, became a company called Trade Area Systems, and we sold that to a British private equity company in 2020 for a very nice deal. So it did work out in the end, but there was a lot of pain in the middle. So that kind of stuff,
So,
if you have that map of what you want, you can make better decisions about which way you want to go in your business.
so, Joe, I'm going to ask this question because, well, I'm essentially a solopreneur. I've got a business partner, but I'm in commercial real estate, and we can scale. We can choose to scale, but also just the pace of our business. I can take a vacation, and I've got a partner that covers me. But just in general, I always think of solopreneurs as somebody who just isn't ready to scale yet, or it's a side hustle, unless you're a writer or something. But you're talking about service business solopreneur. You've written a book, and somebody who just doesn't want to scale, they don't want to deal with employees. And I'm just trying to think through things like how do you take a vacation? How do you handle the phones when you're out? Let's say you're a plumber. What happens if you're sick? I mean, are those resources that you're helping people think through?
Well, again, we don't have any plumbers, but I mean that's a different kind of solo business. If it's a solo business, I mean I know that a lot of plumbers that are solo basically partner up with other solo plumbers and cover for each other and that kind of thing. But the people that we're helping, a lot of them, they have maybe 10 clients, and they just basically say, I'm not if they're let's just hypothetically say we're talking about a life coach. We've got a bunch of those. And they just say, look, I'm going on vacation for 2 weeks. Not going to have any sessions for 2 weeks. I'll be back. And, they plan it in that way. If we help them find ways to kind of value their product offerings in such a way that they can make more than they usually think they can, because a lot of times solopreneurs underprice. They just look at, oh, well, how many hours is that going to take? What should I make an hour? It's like, you got to, we had one guy the other day, and he made $500 on this work that he did, and he realized afterwards that he saved the company a $400,000 loss. And by what he did, he basically salvaged some software that they had invested in building, and he came in and with $500 worth of time solved the issues and got it running. He said, I could have charged 5 grand, they wouldn't have blinked. But this is the kind of thing that a lot of solopreneurs do in the beginning. But so yeah, I mean, you have to figure out how you're going to do it. But there are certain businesses that aren't going to work as a solopreneur. You're not going to be a solopreneur. I don't know. I guess you could be a solopreneur dentist, but then you've got to have another dentist to cover for you when you're gone. Same with a plumber, electrician, and that's fine. Like I said, we don't deal with those kinds of people because they just have other places that they go. But if you're talking about somebody that's there's a lot of people that we have that help people with their careers, career counseling, career coaching, that kind of thing. You can take off for 2 weeks and nobody's going to die.
That's right. No toilet's going to get clogged. No apartment's going to get washed out. Again, home services reference. But, one thing I noticed about your Solopreneur for Dummies book is that you are clearly very sharp because you put Carly on the face of it.
Yeah, well, Carly's a millennial and I am, I'm a boomer. And, it's one of those things where, people, if I get people in here my age, they're not going to be in very long, are they?
There you go. You're looking for longevity. I love it. Play into the.
No, and Carly is fantastic. I don't know if you've ever heard our podcast. It's called The Aspiring Solopreneur, and she's the brains behind it. She's I'm the peanut gallery. I just chime in with questions and clarifications, and she runs the whole thing. And it's really does a great job with it. But so I don't have any problem putting her front and center when it's appropriate. And sometimes it's my turn to be front and center. If gray hair is required, I can step up and take
you
it
can
on.
provide it.
Yeah.
If no hair is required, Ellen and I can definitely step in for you and help you out with that. But I did want to push that out a little bit. So LifeStarr is what you do. That's LifeStarr with 2 R's. Why 2 R's, by the way?
Because I don't want to be confused with the medevac helicopter company.
Okay. You still get those calls though, don't you?
and the person that owns the lifestarr.com with 1 R wasn't selling. And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized I could kind of use that. I mean, the company is actually called WorkStar and with 2 R's. And so I just feel like it's a good branding opportunity because we've got a lot of other ideas to, expand this beyond just the solopreneur world later. And look at small and medium business and that kind of thing. So, I mean, our big play here, there's 2 big, we've got a whole bunch of education. We've got, courses and classes but we've got 2 big things. We've got an app designed for solopreneurs. Basically, it's kind of like, a task management tool like Asana or Trello. I mean, Asana or, I'm blanking on the other one, but, meets Facebook, meets an email client. So it lets you manage all of the things you're doing, lets you work with anybody else that wants to use the app because there's a free version of it, a light version that's free. And if they don't want to use the app, it just uses email to communicate with them. So you can be working, you've got this project you're working on, you go in and add a file to the project, it will automatically email the file to the person that job is assigned to. You can, all of your emails when they come in get associated with the project or the task that that they should be. There's a whole bunch of AI stuff that we're building into it, and actually got patents going back to 2019 for AI. So we've got just a whole bunch of stuff there, and then we've got an AI system that's actually like a solopreneur coach. So it's basically all the stuff that Carly and I have written, and it's I think it's like 1 million words, maybe more than 1 million words of content. And you can talk to it. You can just talk to it and ask it questions and it'll give you business advice. And it's pretty darn good. I mean, I like the answers it gives. And people are using it to basically get help with their business and not have to pay a coach. And, because it's really affordable compared to a one-on-one coach.
And going back to it again, how do I get a hold of that? You can look at it where?
Well, it's a paid tier. I mean, I'll let you take a peek at it, but it's a paid tier which closed right now. We're going to reopen soon, but we only let a certain number of people in at a time, and we filled our cohort for now, and we'll be opening up again soon. Offline, I can get you in there to show you what it's like.
Oh, no, I meant for our audience. How could they go find, go back to it? Yeah.
Sorry. So yeah, what they want to do is they want to go to lifestarr.com, star is 2 R's, /intro, and sign up for intro, and then that's our free tier. It's got the community, it's got free events. We have 2 free solopreneur events a month. There's a weekly event that we have if they want to come to that. And so there's just all kinds of stuff for solopreneurs, all free forever. And then they'll get notified if they want to up to the, and also give them a free version of the app when we release it. And then it'll also they'll get notified if they want to go to the paid tier if they want. And so that's the way to do it.
Nice. LifeStarr, 2Rs.com. We got Joe Rando. He's not Rando, man. He's bringing it home for us. He's making it happen. Him and Carly have come up with a book. I mean, anybody's got a book called, and they make it Solopreneur Business for Dummies. I mean, come on. That's solid work right there. As a solopreneur, we all feel isolated. You know that. I mean, I guess I would know that. But still, it's lonely at the top. It's lonely by yourself. I have actually worked with somebody you mentioned we have somebody help us with our Excel spreadsheets at our office, and he is a solopreneur. He designed his lifestyle around what he can do because he is excellent at Excel. We both came from the same consulting company, Accenture, way back in the day. He still helps us with our crazy ass Excel spreadsheets I have to do to make my payroll work. But it's a great business. It's a great model. This is a great episode. Let's go figure it out. One more time, Joe. Where's your podcast everybody else can go listen to?
It's called The Aspiring Solopreneur. And you can get it on any podcast platform and YouTube.
And Joe and Carly have the same banter that Alan and I do. Let's go, baby. It's the best time ever. Joe Rando got a full head of hair. We're not jealous, Alan. Not jealous at all.
Just
at all. I mean, for the love of God, you would think that I would have had just some hair. I mean, come on, what happened? All right, guys, it's been another great episode where you guys figure out what's going on in the world. You found another podcast. Let's keep not making those same mistakes. Don't do something the same way you did it last week. Do something different. Make it, shake it. Let's go make it happen. Let's get up that mountaintop. Don't get those pitfalls. Let's go make some money. Get out of here. We got to make some money.
Cheers, everybody.